Okay, so I had the honor of having the very first women's aliyah at Beth Jacob Synagogue. And it came about during the year that I that my mother passed away, and I took on the obligation of saying Kaddish for her every day.
What year was that?
1997. Rabbi Silverman had left, and we had a new rabbi, Rabbi Carlin. And I was coming in every morning to say Kaddish, and I'd come in the door, and I'd come down the stairs, and some of the men would come out and look, and as soon as they saw it was a woman who wasn't counted, it was like, oh, Rosalie's here. And that made me feel really, really uncomfortable. But I came every day because it meant a lot to me to say Kaddish for my mom. And I walked in one day and I came down, and I wear a tallit, and I came into shul and I put my tallis on, and there was a gentleman across from me in the pew, and he looked at me and said, "Oh my God, are you going to be coming in tomorrow with tefillin?" in a very discouraging way. And that really brought tears to my eyes, but I'm a controlled person, and I didn't say anything to him. And I felt really badly. As I said, it was very important to me to say Kaddish for my mom. Since I was the only child who could, and since my father wasn't at the time an observant person, I felt I wanted to take on that responsibility. I left the service after that feeling horrible, and I came home, and of course as soon as I got into the car I really was crying, and I walked into the house and I phoned my friend who was the vice president, I think at the time, Barry Foster, or maybe he was president, I can't remember. And I just let him have it. I just really cried and told him how I felt. And he suggested to me, you've got to call him right now and tell him exactly how you feel. And I thought about it, and I thought, you know what, he's right. So I called this man, and I said to him, it's Rosalie Gaffe, and I just really need to tell you something. You really, really hurt my feelings this morning. And I said, you know, I come to shul every morning to daven, and you're here, and I really respect you. I respect the way you daven. I like to hear you daven. It comforts me to come into synagogue. And I said, I'm the only one in my family who can take on this responsibility. And I did think about it. And I felt if I didn't take on this responsibility, who was going to set an example for my own children? And I said, and he really listened, and it really hit home. And he apologized to me. And he said, I knew as soon as I said it, I shouldn't have said it. He was glad that I called him. And please accept his apology. And the next morning when I came into synagogue, he was very respectful. And of course I was invited to go to the Minion Coffee after at Tim Hortons. And we struck up this sort of friendship. After that, I just continued, and one day I got a call in the spring, and it was one of the, I can't remember who it was, but they said, make sure you're at Minion tomorrow. And I said, well, I come to Minion every morning, or I try to get there. And I came in, and we're davening, and I think it was Matt Schmerling at the time came up, and he said, you have an aliyah this morning. And I said, I do? And he said, yes, you do. And they gave me the aliyah, and I was quite honored and thrilled beyond measure. It just meant so much to me that I could not only say Kaddish for my mom, but be accepted in that way. And I've never forgotten that moment. And I love being Jewish. I feel fortunate I can express my Judaism and live out my life being a Jewish woman. Like, I can remember coming home and telling my husband, I'm wearing a tallis. And that was strange. I was one of the first women, along with Gloria, who wore a tallit. But I remember putting one on and feeling immediately comfortable in it. And it made what I was doing even more meaningful. It just felt right. But it didn't feel right for my husband at the time, because no other women did that. And I know he felt uncomfortable because it brought, people were looking at me, or to be the first isn't always easy.
How did that come about, that you started to wear a tallit?
I guess I was talking with her.
With who?
Gloria. I was talking to Gloria, and noticed up at Camp Ramal when I visited with her, she had a tallit. And I thought that was really quite cool. I always felt comfortable davening and learning from her and learning. And it just felt right. And I actually remember the very first time I wore a tallit was in shul, was for my son's and daughter-in-law's wedding, Afraf. And it just felt wonderful.
Can you speak about Gloria Silverman, your first impression of her, and the impact that she had on this shul?
Oh, she was just amazing. I joined a sisterhood, or I came to a sisterhood educational class, and our children were young, and I walked into the class, and I was immediately inspired by her. Her warmth, her knowledge, what she imparted to us. I took every kind of class she would give, and it just felt so good. I was immediately inspired by her.
What kind of classes was she giving? What were the topics of some of the classes?
I learned how to go through the prayer book and understand what each prayer meant in layman's language, and how to read the prayers and understand keywords and what they really meant. And what came out of that for me was I learned to make those prayers personal to myself. So if I didn't really, the actual words didn't really maybe fit in my head the way I wanted to think about my religion, I learned to question her about it and make it feel right for me. And I liked that. That felt really, really great. I'm trying to think of all the classes she gave. The prayer book for me was very inspirational. She taught us how to read. There was Hebrew classes there. There was classes on the different holidays, and what they meant, and how we could bring them into our own lives. I'd have to go look at my books to tell you each one.
What was the impact she had on the shul, like in terms of building community?
She was so accepting of everybody. And she was immediate, like when I first met her, she's the Rebbitzin. the Rebbitzin. The way I was brought up, the rabbi and the Rebbitzin were held in esteem. You sort of looked up to him. And the first thing she said is, "Call me Gloria." And I think she called me and she said, "It's Gloria." And I said, "Who?" You know, it wasn't Mrs. Silverman. It was Gloria. She was warm. She was very down to earth. She, as I say, she was very inspirational. And our whole group of friends, not just us. It was a whole generation of people. Our friends and that we met at shul and we knew, and our children were very inspired by her. Very, very. She had all kinds of programs for the kids, and she was all encompassing to everybody from each synagogue, with great understanding, I felt.
Can you say some things about Rabbi Silverman? Were you say some positive things about Rabbi Silverman?
He was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant. If I engaged him in something, I mean, he was just so sometimes over my head. But, and if there were times that I had a problem with him, he was always open to talk to me, which I loved. I could go in and say, you know, I don't understand this. And he was always open to talk to me. So I had that. I had quite a nice relationship with him. And he had such morals. Like, he would never do anything that would be immoral. And if you gave a gift to him, it always went. He never kept it. It always went to the synagogue he was just so above reproach. Is that a good word? I quite admired him for that. And he was a wonderful host when we went to his home. He was wonderful. When you walked into that house, you were treated like the most wonderful guest. And he was the most amazing husband to her. He really supported her and loved her. And we would sit at their table and he'd run around with the wine and serve it to her. And he held her in such respect. And I think that set a wonderful example for our young men to look up to. Yeah, I think I would often volunteer to take the kids up north or to the retreat, and he'd come to say goodbye. And there was always this moment between the two where he would come and they'd hug, and he'd give her a kiss, and there was this, I think he was so proud that she was doing this and giving her whole self and taking a weekend away from him. And he was so supportive of her. That part was great. That part was really great. And I saw that. He also did all the washing. Sisterhood role at the time was to support the Hebrew school. We raised all kinds of money in my term to support the Hebrew school, but did something else for us women. When I came into sisterhood, there was this body of women, Hannah Feldman, Dorothy Sherman, Harriet Smirlick. I fell in love with all those women. They were amazing. They were just amazing. You came into that kitchen and everybody had recipes. I mean, I learned so much there. I learned how to make gefilte fish in an easy way, not my mother's way where you huck the fish. And everything was jovial, and they were so happy to have an extra volunteer when I came along. And they were smart. They were committed. They found ways to make money that were kind of unbelievable. Dorothy Sherman She had the cards. I remember she had the cards, and she had a magnetic personality. And I think they were Torah Fund cards. And she would just hound everybody and say, give me whatever, $200, and you'll have cards for the year. And she made money for the shul. And I'm trying to think of who else. Frances Silver. Oh my God, she was so special. I think she was the treasurer for years and years and years. And I used to go to her house afterwards when we'd have a big event, and I'd take the money to her, and her home was always open, and all of them were like that. And drop off the money and sit there and have coffee with her and discuss what we should be doing the next time. It was always, what's going on next? It was just a warm, wonderful bunch of women. They were all older than me, but I looked up to all of them. I thought they were amazing. And nothing was too much for them. Nothing was too much for them. They would schlep and go and do and hound you, and they all had different personalities, and you learn to deal through all of them, but they all really cared for each other and supported each other and had a goal. They loved the shul. They were amazing. And they loved Gloria. They loved Gloria. They were like this little pack who would do anything. If her kids got married, they were all there. You know, we have to do this and we have to do that. And they were a community, a supportive one, and a caring one.
While I have you here.
Yes.
Can you say something, can you speak to what you see when you come to the shul today?
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's warm. It's different than it was. Before it was a much more formal service. And what I see now is also a community with a lot of warmth, with more freedom in the service. And as you know, my dad comes every week, and I come with him when I'm here and not in Florida or running around. And they're also a community, and they're also, it's a prayer community with all kinds of people who bring something special to the shul. The rabbi is amazing. He's new and he's young with a lovely little family, but he's since the very first time I met him, he always has something important to say in where we can understand it. And it seems to be, and he's accepting and bright. And it seems to be just a little more open. And I really enjoy it. It's a frail service most of the time. And what I like about it today is it's thought-provoking in a very short time. Gets my attention in a very short time. It's modern. And I love the way it's set up. I've never felt uncomfortable here since I've come in. And that's really nice.